You're a giant elk. Not the kind alive today. Something bigger, antlers spanning 12 feet. A species the world hasn't seen in 8,000 years. You have survived wolves, cave lions, and a winter that killed everything smaller than you within 100 miles. You are, by every measure that matters on this continent, the most imposing thing walking around. And right now, something is watching you from the tree line. You turn. It's small, pale, stands on two legs in a way that looks structurally questionable. No claws visible, no fangs, moving slowly, almost cautiously, like it's not entirely sure what it's doing either. Your threat system runs its check. Not a wolf, not a cat, not anything really. You stare at it for 3 full seconds. Then you go back to drinking. You have made a terrible mistake. Here's what the extinction textbooks leave out. The mammoths, the giant ground sloths, the massive short-faced bears, they weren't killed because humans were stronger. They weren't outrun, they weren't outsmarted in any way they could have defended against. They died because they did exactly what you just did. They looked at something brand new, found no match in their threat library, and decided it wasn't worth worrying about. That decision, made by millions of animals across thousands of years, quietly emptied entire continents. Every animal alive today carries what biologists call a trait library. It's not a memory. It's deeper than that. It's a biological catalog written into the genome across millions of years of everything that has ever successfully killed members of your species. When something new appears in your environment, your nervous system runs it against that catalog in under a second. Match found, every muscle in your body fires at once. No match, curiosity. Proceed, probably fine. The elk at the watering hole ran that check. Clean result, no match, proceed. The problem wasn't that the check failed. The problem was that the catalog was incomplete. Think about what early humans actually looked like from 30 meters away. Not terrifying, not impressive. A small group of upright figures moving slowly, spreading out as they walked, occasionally making quiet sounds to each other. No sprint, no crouch, no sudden narrowing of distance that every prey animal's alarm system has been calibrated for millions of years to detect. By every physical metric the elk's biology was designed to measure, these things were essentially furniture. Dangerous furniture, as it turned out, but furniture nonetheless. What the elk couldn't see was the conversation happening inside that group, the plan already made, the positions already assigned, the fact that two of those slow, unimpressive figures had quietly moved downwind 20 minutes ago and were now waiting on the other side of the watering hole. Back to our elk. It's been 3 minutes, still drinking, completely unbothered. If elk could shrug, this one would be shrugging. Wolves and elk have been shaping each other for 3 million years. Every time wolves got faster, the slow elk didn't survive to reproduce. Every time elk got more alert, the careless wolves went hungry. Back and forth, generation after generation, until both species knew each other at a cellular level. The elk's legs knew the wolf's jaw knew the elk. It was a relationship, in the strangest sense of the word. Humans collapsed that entire equation in 15,000. There was no back and forth, no co-evolution, no time for the elk's genome to write a response. Humans showed up, and the elk's biology was handed a test it hadn't studied for in a language it didn't speak, with no time to figure out the answers. The elk failed the test, so did the mammoth, so did the giant ground sloth, which, for what it's worth, was roughly the size of an elephant and somehow managed to lose an existential conflict with a species that hadn't invented metal yet. The ones that survived were different, not smarter, not stronger, just by pure accident of temperament, slightly more anxious, slightly more likely to bolt at something unfamiliar before fully evaluating it. The ones whose nervous systems were tuned a little too high, who fled from things that turned out to be harmless, who spent a lot of energy running away from nothing. In any other era, that trait would have been a liability. But in the era of humans, that trait was the only thing that mattered. Those animals had more offspring. Their offspring were slightly more anxious. Theirs more anxious still. Over hundreds of generations, what had been a random nervous quirk became something encoded, something that fired automatically, before thought, before evaluation, something inherited. That process has a name. Researchers call it anthropogenic fear, fear of humans. written into the genome not by experience, but by the selective elimination of every animal that didn't have it. And a 2019 study published in Ecology Letters measured just how deep it goes. Researchers played audio recordings to wild animals in South Africa, lion vocalizations, dog barks, human voices, just talking normally. The animals fled fastest from the humans. Not equally fast, faster. They stayed gone longer. They came back more cautiously. They treated the sound of two people having a casual conversation as a more urgent threat than the sound of an apex predator announcing its presence. The lion has been killing these animals for 3 million years. They are more afraid of you making small talk. That's not instinct, that's a scar, written in the genes of every animal alive, paid for by every animal that wasn't afraid enough, accumulated across thousands of years of getting the calculation wrong. That's the whole story. The nervous ones lived, the calm ones didn't, and the world you inherited, every skittish deer, every watchful crow, every fox that was already gone before you looked up, was built entirely from the survivors of that selection. You were too. That feeling you get when something is wrong before you can explain why. When a situation feels off before anyone has said anything. When every instinct says leave and you don't have a single logical reason. That's not overthinking. That's not anxiety. That's the same system that kept your ancestors alive in a world where the most dangerous thing didn't look dangerous at all. The elk didn't know what it was looking at. You do.